to the Bible by the Week. It's week 34. I thought it would be appropriate to film in front of this burn pile behind me here because we have reached a pivotal point in our readings, and that is the destruction of Jerusalem. It's part of this long saga of the rise and the fall of Israel. And this week we read about the temple being destroyed, Jerusalem being destroyed, the line of Davidic kings really coming to an end until the time of Jesus. So our first reading was from 2 Kings, so it's the last chapter of 2 Kings. It talks about the reign of Jehoiakim, who's follows his brother Jehoiachin, who did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And so Jehoiachin's reign was only 3 years. Jehoiakim becomes king under Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon during that time when he's besieging Judah. And Jehoiachin succeeds Jehoiakim, but Jerusalem's captured, and he is exiled along with 10,000 others from Babylon. Now, if you're like me, you hear about the Babylonian captivity, and you assume that all of the people in Judah were taken into captivity. That is not the case. The poor, the weak, the elderly were left behind. It was the educated, the wealthy, the able-bodied, the people that weren't going to be a burden on the Babylonians and that they wouldn't have trouble transporting to Babylon, the people that would contribute to their society. Those were the people that were exported. So they were all the leaders in Judah, including, of course, the religious leaders and the kings who had led the people in their idolatry. Zedekiah is named as the new king under the Babylonians, and he's installed as a vassal of the Babylonians, but he eventually rebels against the Babylonians, and so they come after him and they blind him. And Jerusalem is captured, the temple's destroyed, a governor is installed. But after 37 years, a new king comes to power in Babylon who shows kindness to David's descendants, kind of a respect for the office of the king. And so Jehoiachin, a different Jehoiachin, is that king who is given a certain amount of honor and freedom in Babylon. Now, the way that 2 Chronicles puts it in the last chapter in 36, it talks about Jehoahaz being deposed after 3 months by Pharaoh, points that out, that it was Pharaoh. There's still this battle between Egypt and Babylon that's going on, and Judah is right in the middle of it. And it's Pharaoh that renames and enthrones his brother Jehoiakim. Then Nebuchadnezzar invades. 3 years later, he exiles the unfaithful of Jerusalem to Babylon, and he enthrones the son of Jehoiakim. But 3 months later, that Jehoiachin is replaced by his uncle Zedekiah, who again rebels against Babylon. And this, we're told, is because the Judeans ignored the prophets and they mocked God. They worshipped idols. And so God let the Chaldeans, which is another name for the Babylonians, level the temple, destroy Jerusalem, and exiles them to Babylon for 70 years. Until, and we get a little preview here, Cyrus of Persia, the Persians, Medo-Persian Empire, overcomes the Babylonians, and Cyrus is led by God to let them return. So I hope I got that all straight. It is a little confusing in the end, but it's first Egypt is the power, fighting the Babylonians. The Babylonians eventually succeed. Each one puts kind of their puppet king in place. Those kings rebel against their overlords, thinking, well, hey, we have the true God on our side. But of course, God, through his prophets, has spoken that because they committed idolatry and turned against him, he's going to allow consequences to happen to them. Now, while this is all happening, is the time of the prophet Habakkuk. Not very well known. I don't know that we have any readings except one particular reading comes from Habakkuk. So in the first chapter, the prophet is complaining to God that God's not answering his cries for justice, and that may strike a chord with you. And God answers that he's raising up the Babylonians in order to execute his judgment and justice, because remember, the righteous in Israel, the ones who worship the true God, were often persecuted by those who were idolaters. And Habakkuk responds, interesting enough. He says, God's too pure to look on evil. How can he use the evil and indiscriminate? And he uses the image of a fishnet of Babylon and their conquest of Judah, because like a fishnet, it's going to catch what you don't want to catch. It's going to catch the innocent as well as the guilty. And God responds, and this is the famous quote, that the righteous will live by his faith. And this is it. It's the trust in God, that God can be trusted to make it all right in the end. Even when we personally are suffering, we still have faith in God. And he says that he will punish the unjust, and that he will, the plundering nations that have attacked Israel and Judah, they too will receive in turn their own punishment. And Habakkuk at the end responds by praising God for his past judgment and vowing to wait patiently with rejoicing for God his Savior. That's kind of the stance, the attitude after this destruction, waiting for God's salvation. So then we moved on to Jeremiah, to the final chapters of Jeremiah. Um, and this gives us a little bit more detail of what's going on. So Jeremiah is telling the people, when Babylon is coming after them, to surrender, or they're going to die by sword or famine or plague. And the court officials, of course, don't want to hear this, so they get permission from Zedekiah, who's in charge during this part of Jeremiah, to throw him into a cistern. They throw him down a well. Now, interestingly, it's Ebed-Melech, who's a Cushite, who gets Zedekiah's permission to rescue the prophet. Now, what's interesting about that is Cush is where? It's south of Egypt. So this would be what we would call an African man, in case you're thinking that it was all lily white in the Old Testament. It was not. They were Semitic, and there are African people who appear, including Ebed-Melech, who is a good guy on the side of the prophet of God. And after he's rescued, Zedekiah the king consults Jeremiah, and Jeremiah urges him to surrender, that's going to be the best thing for him. Don't resist God in this. But Zedekiah is afraid that if he surrenders, he's going to be mistreated by the Babylonians. So as it happens, Nebuchadnezzar, this is chapter 39, conquers Jerusalem, and Zedekiah flees instead of surrendering, but he's captured. And so his sons are slaughtered before his eyes, and he is blinded, and Jerusalem is destroyed. Ebed-Melech, as a sign that he was on the right side in all this, he is spared. Jeremiah in chapter 40 is freed and goes to live with Gedaliah, who's the appointed governor, appointed by the Babylonians, not king, but governor. But a guy named Ishmael assassinates Gedaliah and those with him in Mizpah. Now, Johanan and Samar, the army officers, they rescue a remnant from Mizpah where this takes place, but they're afraid now of what the Babylonians are going to do when they find about it, when they hear that the governor that they appointed has been assassinated. And so they ask Jeremiah to inquire of God, and they swear that they'll obey and do what God says, because God says, stick around, face the music. Jeremiah tells them to stay in the land, but they do not want to hear that. And so they disobey, even though they said that they would if he'd inquire of God. And they take Jeremiah and a remnant from Judah. They take them to Egypt, because Egypt, of course, is the enemy of Babylon. And there in Egypt, Jeremiah predicts that Nebuchadnezzar is going to catch up with them. He's going to find them, and he's going to spread his canopy over them, meaning his influence, and he's going to take captives, and he's going to destroy the Egyptian temple. And then in 44, Jeremiah further predicts that because of their idolatry, God will destroy the remnant of Judah that has fled to Egypt. And yet they persist in worshiping the Queen of Heaven, this false god. And as a sign, Jeremiah tells them that Pharaoh Hophra will be assassinated. In 45, the Lord rebukes Baruch, his scribe, you might remember, his secretary, through Jeremiah, and tells him not to seek comfort when his country is being destroyed. The prophets should share in the pain of their people. But Baruch, is assured that he won't be killed, but nonetheless, he's being rebuked. In 46, Jeremiah predicts that Egypt's army is going to be shamefully defeated by the Babylonians. In other words, those who fled Judah fled to the wrong side. Um, and in 47, he predicts that the Philistines will be destroyed in turn by the Egyptians, that Moab will be destroyed by the Babylonians. That's on the other side of Judah. And for their idolatry and for attacking the Israelites, but eventually Moab will be destroyed. In 49, Ammon, also on that side of Judah, will be destroyed. Edom will become an object of horror. Damascus, the capital of Syria, is going to be burned, and that they're going to be um, uh, destroyed, and the Elam is going to be shattered, but eventually restored. And Babylon itself, though, this great mighty nation, will itself in turn be laid waste and will be exiled by a nation from the north. That nation of course, turns out to be Persia. And this is going to be retribution for Babylon's cruelty to Zion. So Jeremiah sends this message with Sariah, a servant, to be read in Babylon to the Jewish captives there. And then the siege of Jerusalem is described again in detail, but it ends as Second King ends, Jeremiah ends, describing the liberation of David's descendant, Jehoiachin. See, this is hope coming through the descendants of David. So that's just a recap of our readings from this week. Again, this is the pivotal event when Jerusalem is destroyed, the temple of God is leveled, all because of this idolatry. And yet it also ends with hope. And it's not the end of the story, just the tragic ending of the temple that was built by Solomon, and Jerusalem as the capital city of the ancient nation of Israel, and then Judah. So I hope that helps. I hope you're following along with the readings. Have courage. We're about 2/3 of the way through, and thanks for sticking with it. The Lord be with you in your study.